大家好，欢迎来到克林英语课堂。这节课和下节课我们会和大家一起来学习一下美式英语中的辅音。今天的课程我们会侧重于为大家讲解辅音的发音特征、重要性和分类。我是你们的主讲老师丽丽老师。
Hello, welcome to Corley English. This lesson and the next lesson we will cover the consonants of American English. Today we will focus on the articulatory features, importance, and classification of the consonants. I'm your instructor, George Corley.
上节发音课上，我们学习了美式英语中的元音。通过学习，我们认识到了能否像美国人一样地道的讲英文，关键要看能否发准每个元音。之后，我们主要从舌位、唇形和舌部肌肉松紧状态这3个方面学习了每个元音的发音要领。在上节课的演练环节，柯老师通过一些经典例词带领大家一起练习了每个元音的正确发音。因为距离上个发音视频的发布有好长一段时间了，大家空闲时可以点开上个视频复习一下美式元音。还没有看过上集发音视频的朋友们，也可以抽空补看一下。这节课呢，我们主要有3个学习目标。首先需要大家理解辅音区别于元音的发音特征，其次需要大家认识到辅音在英语发音中所扮演的重要角色，最后需要大家学习一下辅音的分类方法，以及在每个分类标准下每个类别所包括的具体辅音。这样一来，大家就可以更好地理解每个辅音的发音特征，并为下节课掌握每个辅音的发音要领做好准备。好嘞，闲话不多说，咱们赶紧开始今天的课程吧。
Sure, let's get started.
辅音有哪些区别于元音的发音特征呢？通过前2课的学习，我们认识到了元音主要是靠振动声带来发音的。发音时，气流从肺部送出，发音过程中气流不受任何阻碍，发音很响亮，构成音节的主音。而辅音顾名思义，在英语发音中扮演着辅助配合元音的角色。和元音的发音不同，辅音主要是靠发音器官和气流发生摩擦来发音的。发音过程中，气流会受到一定的阻碍，声带不一定发生振动，发音不够响亮，不是构成音节的主音，而是辅助配合元音一起生成音节。
Let's try to understand the distinction between consonants and vowels from 2 sample sounds, th and ah. The consonant th is produced with the tongue coming out between the upper and lower teeth, so the airflow is highly restricted as it comes out from the lungs through the oral cavity. With the constriction of the airflow between the tongue and the teeth, we have the consonant sound th. The vocal folds never vibrate in the whole process. This sound is not sonorous at all and does not constitute a syllable nucleus. By contrast, the vowel ah, as we learned in our previous lesson, is produced with the mouth wide open. The airflow doesn't get constricted or blocked at any point. With the vibration of the vocal folds, a very sonorous sound is produced. A sound like this typically functions as the nucleus of a syllable.
虽然辅音不是构成音节的主音，但它们在音节和词汇的生成方面却扮演着至关重要的角色。 辅音配合元音产生音节，在促成英语发音多样性方面有着不可磨灭的贡献。只有发好辅音，才能发出高识别度、让人理解的单词，进而说出可以让人听懂的短语和句子。讲得更通俗直白一些，我们可以说，元音让人听到你在讲话，而辅音让人听懂你在讲什么。下面呢，咱们一起来听克老师讲个句子。这个句子比较特殊一些，我们通过语音处理，剔除了所有的辅音，只留下了元音。大家若感兴趣的话，可以尝试着猜一下它究竟在讲什么。
The cat is the hat. The cat is the hat. The cat is the hat.
怎么样，大家有头绪吗？是不是听得一头雾水呀？现在我们可以把缺失的辅音给放回去，来揭晓一下柯老师讲的原句究竟是什么。
The cat hid the hat.
这回相信大家一遍就听懂了柯老师所讲的内容。通过这个小游戏呢，我们可以发现，如果没有辅音的参与，咱们开口说英文听上去会像哑巴一样，别人根本听不懂你在说什么。所以呢，要想打好发音基础，我们还是很有必要来系统的学习一下辅音的。
As we learned in the previous lesson, consonants will be somewhat easier to learn than vowels, partly because it's easier to give a more precise definition, and partly because there is less variation.
没错，上节课我们在学习元音的发音要领之前有提到，元音会比辅音更难学一些。一是因为元音发音要领更为抽象，二是因为元音的发音变数比较大一些。这节课我们重点学习辅音，就可以把元音当成参照物了。这样一来，辅音学习比较容易的原因就一目了然了。一方面，相比元音，辅音的发音要领更为具体，发准辅音仅需协调好唇齿口等发音部位，不管是描述起来还是学习起来都会更容易一些。另一方面，相比元音，辅音的发音相对恒定统一，即使是在不同的方言中，辅音的变数也很小。这也就是为什么我们提到辅音，通常不会像元音那样根据发音差别去区分英式发音和美式发音，因为不管是英式还是美式，辅音的发音几乎一致，不会发生大的变化。
However, I have to say, while it's pretty easy to get most consonants right, there are a few tricky consonants that may need extra effort to pronounce correctly. Let's first go over the dimensions we use to define consonants. There are three parameters we can use to define all the consonants in American English: place of articulation, manner of articulation, and voicing. All of these parameters interact when they come together in a sound, and they constitute the very foundation to define each consonant. Let's go over them one by one. Place of articulation refers to where in the vocal tract airflow is stopped or constricted, and what articulators, lips, teeth, and tongue, are involved. Place of articulation can be most easily illustrated with a sagittal section of the oral cavity.
我们在发辅音的时候，气流从肺部呼出，在通过声道时会受到某些发音器官的阻碍，气流必须克服这些阻碍才能发音。在语音学里，我们把这些对气流形成阻碍的位置称为发音部位。按照发音部位分类时，我们会具体的描述气流在声道中受到堵塞或阻碍的部位，以及所牵涉到的发音器官。我们可以用口腔的矢状面示意图来具体的展示每个辅音的发音部位。接下来，我们在讲解发音部位分类时，会在每个类别下都挑出一个比较有代表性的辅音，来为大家简单的演示该类辅音的发音部位。 英语辅音按照发音部位可以分为8类，也就是双唇音、唇齿音、齿间音、齿龈音、龈腭音、硬腭音、软腭音和声门音。
Bilabial sounds are produced by simply bringing your two lips together.
顾名思义，双唇音牵涉到的发音器官便是双唇。在发音的过程中，气流会在上下唇的接触面受到阻碍。
There are 4 bilabials in English. In addition to the sample sound corresponding with what the sagittal section illustrates,
P,
the other 3 are B, M, and W. Labiodental sounds are produced with the lower lip against the upper teeth.
唇齿音是气流在上齿和下唇咬合处受阻而形成的辅音。
There are 2 labiodentals in English, namely F and V. Interdental sounds are produced with the tongue coming out between the upper and lower teeth.
发齿间音的时候，需要把舌尖放在上下齿之间，让气流从牙齿和舌尖咬合处的缝隙中通过。所以说呢，很明显，齿间音是气流在牙齿和舌尖咬合处受阻而形成的辅音。
The 2 interdentals in English are th and th. Alveolar sounds are pronounced with the tip of the tongue close to or touching the alveolar ridge, which is a bony ridge located just behind the teeth.
发齿龈音的时候，需要把舌尖抵向齿龈。发音过程中，你会感觉到气流会在舌尖和上齿龈间受到阻碍或部分阻碍。
The alveolars in English include t, d, s, z, n, u, and Alveopalatal sounds are produced with the tongue coming up toward the front of the hard palate, just behind the alveolar ridge.
龈腭音是将舌头抵向硬腭前部或齿龈后部所发出的音。
There are 4 alveopalatals in English, namely sh, zh, ch, and j. Palatal sounds are pronounced with the tongue rising toward the middle of the palate.
硬腭音是将舌头抬向硬腭中部所发出的音。
We have only 1 palatal sound in English, that is y. Velar sounds are pronounced with the back of the tongue touching to the velum or soft palate.
软腭音是将舌头后部贴向软腭所发出的音。发音的过程中，你会感觉到气流会在舌头后部与软腭之间形成阻碍。
The velars in English include k, g, and n. Glottal sounds involve changing the width of the glottis, which we will cover further down under h, which is the only glottal sound we'll be covering.
声门音牵涉到的发音器官便是声门了，也就是喉部两侧声带之间的区域。发该音的时候，气流会从肺部排出，然后到达喉部，通过整个口腔并产生一定的摩擦。英语中只有一个声门音，也就是好嘞，发音部位这个标准下，英语辅音的8大类我们都学完了。这里我想再强调一下，按照发音部位分类时，我们主要关注的是发音过程中气流在声道中受到堵塞或阻碍的部位，以及牵涉到的发音器官。下面我们来简单的看一下 按照发音方式，我们该如何来定义辅音，并将它们一一归类？
Manner of articulation refers to the degree of constriction of airflow.
发音方式通俗点讲，指的就是气流是以怎样的方式从口腔中出来的。我们上面有提到，英语中的辅音在发音过程中，气流会受到一定的阻碍，气流必须克服这些阻碍才能发音。语音学里，我们把辅音发音过程中发音器官对气流形成阻碍和气流克服阻碍的方式称为发音方式。英语辅音按照发音方式可以分为6大类，具体包括爆破音、摩擦音、塞擦音、鼻音、流音和滑音。
For stops, airflow is completely blocked by the articulators, then released.
发爆破音的时候，气流会因发音器官完全闭合而暂时受到阻塞，然后阻塞会突然得到解除，同时气流在冲破阻碍时会爆发成音。
There are 6 stops in English. In addition to the sample sound t, the other 5 are d, p, b, k, and g. For fricatives, airflow is highly restricted, causing high-frequency white noise.
发摩擦音的时候，发音器官并没有完全闭塞，会留有狭窄的缝隙。当气流从缝隙中挤出时，会与发音器官摩擦而发出声音。
We have 9 fricatives in English. They are s, z, f, v, sh, zh, and h. Affricates are a combination of a stop and fricative, meaning that when the stop is released, the airflow is still momentarily restricted enough to produce a fricative.
塞擦音是爆破音和摩擦音的结合。具体发音的时候，发音器官会首先完全闭塞，堵住气流，然后会突然打开一条狭窄的缝隙，使气流从中挤出，而摩擦成音。
The 2 affricates in English are ch and j. For nasals, airflow is completely blocked in the oral cavity, like with stops. But the nasal passage is open so that air can flow out of the nose.
发鼻音时，口腔通路完全闭塞，气流震动声带后会从鼻腔流出。
We have 3 nasals in English, namely and For liquids, airflow is partially blocked, but there is enough airflow around the articulators for a sonorous sound.
发流音时，舌尖需抵向上齿龈，气流会受到部分阻碍，但仍有足够的气流在震动声带后从发音器官所形成的空隙间流出。
The 2 liquids in English are and ul. Is a rhotic liquid, while ul is a lateral liquid. While is pronounced with the tongue just approaching the alveolar ridge, for ul, the tongue actually does touch the alveolar ridge, but the sides are lowered so that air can pass around the tongue, giving it a sonorous sound. For glides, airflow is barely blocked at all, to the point that the sound resembles a vowel. Some linguists even call these sounds semivowels.
跟其他的辅音不同， 华音在发音过程中气流几乎不受任何阻碍，所以从语音学角度来讲，华音其实具有元音的语音特征，发音相对比较响亮。这也就是为什么华音也被称为半元音。但因华音仅出现在音节边界的位置，所以它们具有辅音的音系功能。
We have two glides in English, namely w and y.
最后，英语辅音按照发音时声带的振动模式，可以分为浊辅音和清辅音两大类。
A consonant is voiced when the vocal folds are vibrating and voiceless when they are not vibrating. For example, th and th are a pair of fricatives with the same place of articulation. Their only difference lies in their voicing, or whether our vocal folds are vibrating when they are pronounced. When we pronounce th, our vocal folds are vibrating. When we pronounce th, our vocal folds are not vibrating.
大家可以尝试着把手放在颈部的咽喉处，发浊辅音 z 的时候，你会明显感觉到声带的震动；而发清辅音 th 的时候，声带不会发生任何震动。我们会发现爆破音、摩擦音、色擦音是有清浊之分的，并且大多数情况下都是成对出现的。而所有的鼻音、流音和滑音都属于浊辅音。
Alright, this should be all we want you to know about consonants before we further dig into more details about each individual consonant. The core part of this lesson, as we can see, is the three parameters that distinguish consonants from each other, namely place of articulation, manner of articulation, and voicing. These features together are what define each of the English consonant sounds, and they are all crucial for distinguishing one consonant from another.
按照这三个分类标准，我们可以把英语中的所有辅音整理成一个表格，这样每个辅音的发音特征，包括发音部位、发音方式和清浊，就可以一目了然了。每个辅音也因此得到一个标签，比如 p 就可以被称为双唇爆破清辅音，而和 v 对应的标签便是唇齿摩擦浊辅音。
In the next lesson, we will cover the individual consonants using these labels to help explain the essentials to pronouncing them. We will also provide example words for you to practice with.
下节发音课的具体内容，请大家留意一下本视频结尾屏幕右上方的课程内容预览。欢迎大家点开本视频下方内容描述里的下载链接，免费领取本节课的跟学资料。好嘞，今天的课程就先到这儿，咱们下节课见吧。
Thank you for watching, and see you next lesson. Bye. Support us on Patreon for access to exclusive learning materials. You can follow along with a PDF of our lesson PowerPoint, download high-quality audio files to listen to our lessons on the go, or get access to bilingual transcripts of each lesson. Just go to patreon.com/QuirlyEnglish, select your monthly pledge amount, and instantly gain access. Your contribution will help us to keep creating more quality English learning content for you to enjoy. Thank you!